Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies and comrades. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. Just give me a second. Just give me a second. All right, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, I hope you're doing well. This is Kenyan Revolutionary coming to you for another very brief. Today is Sunday, fun day, whatever the case is. If you're an Arsenal fan, you must be, delighted. Life must be good on your end of things because, Arsenal won against Newcastle. For those of you who are follow football, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I'm not here for that. I'm just here to talk about what's happening in Kenya right now. If this is your first time, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I talk about Kenyan politics and world politics as it relates to Kenya. So karibu sana. I'll be very brief. I won't be here for long like I did yesterday. Today is Sunday, fun day. Tomorrow is Monday, so we have to prepare ourselves for the coming week. So we shall start with the news that's making news update today, which is not much. Again, the Kenyan circus, which we call politics. Politics in Kenya is like a huge soap opera that we keep on following. These political actors pretending that they are against each other and they throw salvos against each other and they do this and say that and that. Just a bunch of nonsense. But we are here for the nonsense. We are here for the dances. We shall chambua it in and out and open your eyes as to what you need to do in order to secure a future that actually benefits all of us as Kenyans. So karibu sana. Again, if this is your first time here, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and put your notification bell on so every time I come in, you can always find me here. And if you've already done so, you know the first order of business. Go ahead and hit the like button. That's the first order of business, okay? So let's get started. The big news here today is Gachagua. Gachagua was talking about a bunch of things. He talks about Kalonzo being loyal, talking about Raila being, money lover, and whatever the case is. Let's start with what he had to say. Here's Gachagua. Let me just start with Gachagua. Then we shall work our way onto everything else that is going up in Kenya, okay? Let's get started right about now. Here it is. Then I'll come back and just talk about what I think about this Gachagua lunatic. Let's go. Anyway, here it is. 2020 kazi. Here's Gachagua. He had this to say.
Pale University of Nairobi. Ruto alisoma hii maneno ya matawi na nini. Ndio Kenya imepotea. Sasa I have studied maneno ya Kalonzo Musyoka. Huyu Raila alikuwa anasema ati Kalonzo ni watermelon. Mimi nimeangalia Kalonzo has been steadfast kwa msimamo. Raila amemchenga na kumsaliti for 15 years. Hajamwacha hata siku moja. Amemfanyia interview, amemwaibisha, hakumwacha. Kalonzo amekuwa na msimamo from day one. In fact, the watermelon of Kenya ni huyu Raila Odinga. Just do an analysis. Alisimama na Moi 1997, akashindwa, akaenda kwa Moi, kweli. Akashindwa na Kibaki 2007, akashikana na Kibaki. Akashindwa na Uhuru, akaenda kwa Uhuru. Akashindwa na Ruto, akaenda kwa Ruto. Mtu ambaye hana msimamo katika Kenya, the real watermelon of Kenyan politics ni one Raila Amolo. So hiyo tangu ulikuwa umewekelea Kalonzo, tumekubadilika, wewe ndio watermelon. Kalonzo is a patriotic son of this republic. Si ndio? Mimi nimeketi chini na huyu Eugene Wamalwa. Alikuwa offered waziri wa broad based government. Akakataa, akasimama na Kenya. Nimeketi na Martha Karua, hawezi tingishwa. Juzi nimeongea na Tebea. Akaniambia mtu akisikia ameenda kwa Ruto, ile watu wako karibu na yeye wamshike wapeleke yeye Mathare. So between myself, Kalonzo, Eugene Wamalwa, Martha Karua, George na Tebea, those 5 leaders cannot betray the people of Kenya. And among us tutatoa mtu moja wa kung'ang'ana na William Ruto. Tumekubaliana? Na msikuwe confused na hii maneno ya Raila kusema hatujatoa candidate nini. Huyu mzee ni mjaja sana. Pale kwa Ruto ametengeneza group mbili. 2 groups. Ni mzee mjaja. Ni mzee lakini ni mjaja. Group moja ni ya kutoa pesa kwa Ruto. Ile akina Junet kumsifu broad based nini ndio pesa itoke na viti na ile mambo wamehaidana na Ruto. Na kwa sababu anajua Ruto pia ni conman, hawezi timiza ile mmekubaliana, ameuda group nyingine ya kina Sifuna ya kupiga kelele. Ndio ile maneno wamekubaliana na Ruto wafanye nini? Sasa hii umeona akisema ati hawajaamua kama ODM itasimamisha mtu, ni cheki yake ilikuwa imechelewa. Sasa imetoka, si amenyamaza? Si amenyamaza? Hiyo ndio mchezo Raila anafanya pale. Ako na 2 teams. But I want to confirm Ruto amesema. Na aliniambia mimi nikiwa naibu wake. Hii mzee anaitwa Raila ni mtu ya pesa. Nikiwa na pesa atafanya vile mimi nataka. It has come to pass. Huyu mzee atakuwa na Ruto. Ruto atamlipa, watakuwa pamoja. Lakini ni mzuri so that the people of Kenya can deal with William Ruto and Raila together, one touch, tumaliza na shida ya Kenya. Si ndio? Na hata huyu Raila akija kwetu, akuje kule nyuma atupigie kura. Sisi hatutaki akuje atusumbue. Na sisi hatuna pesa ya kupatia yeye. Sijui kama Kalonzo wewe uko na pesa ya kupea hii Raila. Hii mtu ni muhitaji ya pesa.
Well, I can't lie. That was funny. It's actually true. What he's saying as far as, I mean, regardless of how funny he sounds, it's actually true. It's actually true. For the most part. Okay, he's Gachagua. Gachagua is saying Raila Odinga, is somebody who cares about money. That's all he cares about. He doesn't care about anything else. If it's about money, he's in it. So basically, what I found interesting in that statement, though, even though he said things that we already know about, Raila being the real watermelon, all that. You heard what he said, okay? What I personally found, what might happen in the future is this. When he mentioned that hata huyo mzee akikuja kwetu, tutamweka huko nyuma, sijui kama mko na pesa ya kumpatia, kama wewe Kalonzo uko na pesa ya kumpatia. Basically, he's suggesting that there might be room for Raila Odinga if Raila Odinga chooses to, decamp from Ruto's, protege. Because, if, and again, I usually tell you guys here that these folks play around. It's mchezo a town. There's no real beef between these people. They write these scripts and talk about all this politics because they know it excites the masses. It is music to your ears. It is what you want to hear. It will entertain you. You'll be up trying to talk about and, do the calculations, arithmetic. Who there? Kisi vote, Luo vote, Luya vote, Kikuyu vote, the best vote, Coast vote. It's part of the, the mchezo town. So if you pay attention to what Gachagua has been talking about, I remember there's one of his exclusive 2-hour interview that I don't know if it was Citizen TV or NTV, where he said that, DJ Moja Karibu, he's saying Baba is still 18 years old. That would be sad if he's really 18 years old psychologically in his mind. But in one of the interview, 2-hour exclusive interview that Gachagua always have once a month or every year or every week or whatever the case is, he made it clear that, he would be open to working with Raila Odinga, which, raised an eyebrow. Not for people like me, I know that is a possibility. But for those of you who are actually buying this whole narrative that Gachagua is really, really Raila's political enemy, is Ruto's political enemy, is I don't know who's political enemy. This is a game these guys are playing. But anyway, just to highlight that, in that one of those interviews, he said that he will be open in the future to work with Raila Odinga. Okay? So here he is also giving another hint that, hey, listen, if Raila comes to our side, atakaa huko nyuma, asitusumbue. But basically, giving that window of opportunity to Raila Odinga. If Raila Odinga, wants to reinvent himself, he can always join the united opposition. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened, because the whole thing was to create this Ninium. Raila, again, like I told you in my previous video, I told you, Raila has to be on the opposition in order to have a negotiating power, in order to have leverage in the negotiations after the post-elections. You understand what I'm saying? So Raila has to be on the opposition. That's why ameanza kuambia kitambo ati hey, unajua nini? Hatuja kukubaliana ati nani atakuwa ati ODM. Who told you that ODM will not be presenting a candidate in 2027? Nani alikuambia? Ulisikia wapi? Because the whole point is this: come 2027, he might run again and find himself in the opposition. That way, if after Ruto rigs the elections, of course there are going to be a grand coalition, but it will be negotiated after Ninium. We know the story right now. We understand each of these people. Only fools will buy the narrative. Absolutely. Yeah. So ni mchezo wa town. These people are Gachagua, Ruto, Raila. It's a huge, humongous game. They actually even there's even the hiyo mchezo ya sijui ati Gachagua amekasirikiana na sijui Matiangi. These people are, it's silly at this point, but it's entertaining for the sake of what it's worth. We play it here, so but basically we want to make sure that you're not buying into this nonsense. Well, we are not going to make sure that you don't buy into this. If you choose to buy into this narrative and you get excited about news like this, that's up to you. We are just reporting and telling you what the truth is. Isn't in mchezo wa town? Okay, Raila. I keep on singing that every single day, and I will never tire to do this. Once I see people getting excited, hey, Raila ameshikana na Matiangi. Oh, Raila ameshikana na Nio. Hey, I have to constantly remind you, okay, that this is mchezo wa town. It is. Yeah? Sijui nini. Okay, listen to these guys when they were reacting to the news about Matiangi, possibly Matiangi, not being all the way 100% with the united opposition or whatever the case may be. Here it is. It's a short snippet. There are people who are speaking their mind about this. Ndio hiyo basi.
Chama, sasa amepata chama. Tulikuwa tunasema hana social media, so sasa hii Matiangi fungua social media. Tulikuwa tunasema hana photoman, sasa hii Matiangi tafuta mtu wa kamera, si ndio? Lakini kuna kitu nitakuelezea bwana Matiangi. I feel you are lost. I know you represent the new world order. You represent, that is the World Bank and the IMF. Na hapo wa Kenya tukianguka, hatutawahi rudi kwa hii kiti tena. Tukianguka tumepeana Kenya kwa mikono baya. Matiangi now and Uhuru Kenyatta seems to talk like saints. Wanajifanya Uhuru Kenyatta anajifanya ni kama aliongoza Kenya ikakuwa Israel, ama akaongoza Kenya ikakuwa Singapore or Malaysia. Where else we know very well, yeye alitutupa kwa mutaro. Mimi hebu nikuelezee. These two people, that is William Ruto na Uhuru Kenyatta, hawa ni failures. They messed up this country. The scandals that happened under Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, they are all in Kimwareri, it happened under his leadership. Tunakumbuka the NYS scandal, it happened under his leadership. Tunakumbuka hakutafutia vijana kazi aliwatafutia ni ya kuzurura huku ati kazi mtaani. Ukiokota takataka kwa mitaro, how does that improve the economy? So Uhuru Kenyatta, let me tell you, wewe ni mtoto ya Serirak, and you remain that. You can't tell us about the future, whereas you had the mantra of this leadership for 10 years. So unatuelezea nini mpya? Nini hiyo mpya unatuelezea yenye hukufanya in the last 10 years? Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Hebu kwanza sasa nichape hiyo ndio turotate, ndio? One time.
Yeah. Listen, I'll play it one more time because maybe you guys at the back, you didn't hear what he had to say. I think it was interesting. He was just basically talking about Matiangi and Uhuru Kenyatta after the
One time. Yes, leo nataka kusema congratulations kwa Matiangi. At last, long last, umepata chama. Yeah? Unajua tulikuwa tunasema hana chama, sasa amepata chama. Tulikuwa tunasema hana social media, so sasa Matiang'i fungua social media. Tulikuwa tunasema hana photoman, sasa Matiang'i tafuta mtu wa kamera, si ndio? Lakini kuna kitu nitakuelezea bwana Matiang'i. I feel you are lost. I know you represent the new world order. You represent, that is the World Bank and the IMF. Na hapo wa Kenya tukianguka, hatutawahi rudi kwa hii kiti tena. Tukianguka tumepeana Kenya kwa mikono baya. Matiang'i now and Uhuru Kenyatta seems to talk like saints. Wanajifanya Uhuru Kenyatta anajifanya ni kama aliongoza Kenya ikakuwa Israel, ama akaongoza Kenya ikakuwa Singapore or Malaysia. Whereas we know very well yeye alitutupa kwa mutaro. Mimi hebu nikuelezee. These two people, that is William Ruto na Uhuru Kenyatta, hawa ni failures. They messed up this country. The scandals that happened under Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, they are all in Kimwarel, it happened under his leadership. Tunakumbuka the NYS scandal, it happened under his leadership. Tunakumbuka hakutafutia vijana kazi aliwatafutia ni ya kuzurura huku ati kazi mtaani. Ukiokota takataka kwa mitaro, how does that improve the economy? So Uhuru Kenyatta, let me tell you, wewe ni mtoto ya Serirak, and you remain that. You can't tell us about the future, whereas you had the mantra of this leadership for 10 years. So unatuelezea nini mpya? Nini hiyo mpya unatuelezea yenye hukufanya in the last 10 years? Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, hebu kwanza sasa nichape hiyo ndio tulotate, si ndio? One term.
All right, so there you go. Hold on, guys. Let me take this out. So basically, okay, there's the young folks who are, they're making their views known about Uhuru Kenyatta and Matiang'i. Of course, there are people who are saying that, Matiang'i might be decamping might decamp this opposition. What do they call them? Opposition, loyal opposition, or united opposition, or whatever the case is. I don't know. Again, like I told you yesterday, I'm not invested in all this politics, this Kenyan political circus, but for the sake of it, we can't deny this. We'll talk about it for the sake of it. We know these are the games that they're playing. Again, let me help you here. For those of you who don't know, I know DJ Moda is with me here, and amejua the script, but I'll explain it to those who are sitting at the back. In Mchezo, this game is designed to actually give Ruto a win, a chance in 2027. Then Gachagua shall be the biggest opposition leader in 2027, moving towards to 2032, because Raila Odinga will probably be done by then. Raila Odinga's political career is not necessarily done per se, but his level, his degree of influence within the political, society, community, whatever the case is, corridors, has diminished, okay? Just because by now everyone has figured out Raila Odinga is not this enigma that we've been led to believe. You were told that he's this great, wonderful freedom fighter, whatever. Maybe he did fight more in 1990s, late 80s, or whatever the case is with Air Force. Even that case, kuna watu ambao wanasema ati Raila, when he was detained, he snitched on Ochoka. That's why Ochoka got killed and Raila was released. So even that, if we are to look back, we can say, the guy's Raila's history is questionable, but majority of people were fooled all through the years thinking this guy actually was fighting the Kenyan struggle, fighting for the Kenyan struggle, okay? He was up for the change. But by now we know this guy, after every election, and I joined the Serikali, after every election he joined the Serikali, then leading up to the next election, atajifanya co-opposition. And he already told you, the signals are already there, and that's why Gachagua was talking about it. We are heading through 2027 sio mbali, because the real campaigns, even though these people have been campaigning all year, the real campaign usually starts a year before the next general elections. Next year will be 2026, a year before the next general elections. So Raila has to start throwing hints that there's a divorce in the works, okay? Divorcing from this working relationship or MOU that he has with UDA. In real sense, it's not going to be a real divorce. The purpose of him divorcing from UDA and from Ruto is to position himself as a member of the opposition, in order, knowing very well that come election time, he knows, number one, I've been explaining this. He understands that Ruto is greatly unpopular. Let me explain this. Listen to me. Let me say this one more time, because some of you might not get it. If Raila sticks with Ruto, let's say tunaenda 2027. Let me help you here. 2027. General election inafika 2027 ndio hiyo. Tunaenda election, Raila is supporting Ruto, okay? If the election is rigged, na Ruto ameshinda, is declared the winner, Raila will be part of, he understands that there'll be such a massive movement against him and the Ruto regime. Unaelewa? Kwa sababu everyone will be against Ruto and Raila himself, because he's supporting Ruto at that point in 2027. Unaelewa? So if he sticks with Ruto in 2027, and we know this election is going to be rigged, because remember, Raila and Ruto had to change the law, the IEBC amendment bill, which is an act now. They had to handpick the IEBC chairperson, commissioners, okay? And the people who are, will be declaring the winner of the elections, okay? I know you're saying the elections will be determined at the polling station, but guess who's going to make the declaration? It's the IEBC commissioner. So here it is. So if Raila sticks with Ruto, understanding very well that Ruto is very unpopular, okay, and he knows that the elections in 2027 is going to be rigged. He knows that. See ati ajui, amejua the election is going to be rigged. So if he sticks with Ruto and Ruto is declared the winner, there'll be a massive, huge, humongous, okay, protest against Ruto regime. People will be demanding that watolewe re-election or watolewe through popular revolution or whatever the case is. And it will not be only Ruto that that this anger is directed to. It will be also directed to Raila Odinga. Okay? So if he finds himself with the Ruto very unpopular after the elections declared that Ruto has won and is supporting Ruto, there'll be no way Raila can come in and present himself as the neutral who wants to bring peace in between two parties. Unaelewa? Haizi kukuja aseme ati I'll come and negotiate for peace between the opposition and Ruto, because he will have zero credibility. Because they've already lumped him together with Ruto. He's part of the rigging. It will be clear by then that his part is supporting a rigged election, and he's part of the problem. So he cannot come to the Ninio, as he usually does, pretending that, okay, let's have a conclave intergenerational discussion of how we can move forward in peace, because he is part and parcel and supported a president that has illegally occupying office. Unaelewa? So he can't become a savior. So in order for him to come in as the savior and negotiate for another handshake, another intergenerational conclave, he has to first break ranks with Ruto, wakosane. It will be a fake kukosana. Ndio maana ameanza kuwapatia heads up ati who told you that ODM will not be having a presidential candidate in 2027, because he will be running again in 2027. Unasikia? So, but before he runs for the presidency, knowing very well that he's not going to win, okay, he has to first kosana na Ruto, ile ya the fake kukosana. Then he will either join the opposition, well, he'll be an opposition member. Whether he will join Dani Gachagua or not, that is we'll wait to see. But there's a possibility. Gachagua amekuambia hapo hivyo. Ati hata huyo mzee akidecide kutujoin akae huko nyuma. Which hints that they are willing to welcome Raila Odinga to join their united opposition as long as Raila Odinga is in their back front. Unaelewa? So it's possible that Raila might join wakina Martha Karua, Gachagua, and all these people in order to pretend that, okay, he's also with the opposition, because he understands majority of Kenyans are sick and tired of Ruto. Okay? So after the elections, 2027, and Ruto will be declared president after the rigged process. Okay? Kumbuka, yeye na Raila ndio wamechagua hawa commissioners. So after Ruto is declared the president of Kenya in 2027 through a rigged process, of course there'll be chaos. Kuna watu ambao watakasirika, watasema no, election imekuwa rigged, and then there'll be protests and all this stuff, vita na kadhalika. Raila will have a legitimate, not legitimate, but he will pretend, you know, because listen, you know the funny thing about this, Raila, and don't be surprised if this happened, Raila leo akiamua ati anashikana na Gachagua, ama it doesn't even have to ashikane na Gachagua, ashikane na Uhuru, which is very possible. Ashikane na Uhuru na Matiang'i. Okay? Majority of Mount Kenya, okay? Majority, I'm talking about majority, will support that faction. It will pacify Gachagua kabisa. Now, listen to me. I'll say it one more time. And I think this is what's most likely, more than likely to happen. Because Raila joining Gachagua, that's like a step down to him. Because he views himself as a bigger figure than Gachagua, politically speaking, or fame, influentially. You know, he has more, you know, juice than Gachagua, politically speaking, in Kenya. Okay? So Raila cannot join Martha Karua, Kalonzo, and Gachagua. Okay? Or even Matiang'i. And Matiang'i, I think, will not be, you know, Matiang'i is, like I say, Matiang'i is Uhuru Kenyatta's lapdog. Okay? So if Uhuru tells him, hey, wachana na hiyo akina Gachagua, he'll leave like tomorrow. Okay? So what Raila haezi kwenda kujoin wakina Martha Karua in that united opposition. He cannot do that. He won't do that. That's a step down for him. These are his political whatever, juniors, so to speak. Okay? So what is most likely to happen is, if Raila decides to leave Ruto, the person he will join hands with is Uhuru Kenyatta. You see what I'm saying? Because Uhuru Kenyatta is viewed as that person who has the real power when it comes to Mount Kenya. You understand? Because that's why you see, once Ruto alishinda elections, he started saying, unaona mimi lishinda dynasty. Who are the dynasties? Mtoto wa Oginga Odinga na mtoto wa Jomo Kenyatta. Who are the heavyweights, politically speaking, in Kenya. He didn't mind, he didn't mention Martha Karua ati lishinda sijui. No. He said, watoto wa dynasty. You understand? So Raila Odinga, when he leaves, atajifanya ati amekosana na Ruto, then he will go join hands with Uhuru Kenyatta. And Uhuru Kenyatta is nothing but is Matiang'i's boss. Akiambia Matiang'i ruka, Matiang'i will ask, how high? Yes, boss. Unasikia? So Raila Odinga will leave Ruto, go back, washikane. Ndio maana unaona hata Uhuru ameanza kuingia kwa politics tena, ameanza kuongea sana. Kwa sababu 2026 nimewaambia siasa imeanza kuchemka. It's all a script. Okay? So once Raila Odinga ashikane na Uhuru, because that's somebody who is in his league, so to speak, as far as influence is concerned, Kenyan politics. You understand? Gachagua, yes, he's making noise, but Gachagua's influence does not go beyond Mount Kenya. And even that, Uhuru Kenyatta can switch off the lights on Gachagua anytime, regardless of how exciting it might sound with one term and all this stuff. I'm just telling you what's real. I'm talking about the perception of our politics. Okay? Gachagua is a yes in position, and people are saying that anapatia William Ruto sleepless nights. I keep on telling you guys, he's not giving Ruto sleepless nights because he's still walking free. If Ruto really didn't want Gachagua angekuwa kotini saa hizi unasikia ati akona corruption hapo. That's how wanakufinyanga kama uko wewe ni you have influence in Kenya. Ama wataleta Trump charges, wanataka kukufunga. That way wakunyamazishe. But they're playing that game because they understand Gachagua is not really a threat. It's designed to pacify. Because remember, whether we like it or not, the majority of Kenyans, okay, still believe that these armor politicians, they are really beefing politically. Okay, hawaoni ati ni mchezo. But so, like to my point, to go back to what I was saying, when we were talking about this perceived political league, okay, stature, Raila is in a league, the higher league, which consists of Raila and Uhuru Kenyatta hapo juu. Alafu wakina Gachagua hapa chini na wakina Martha Karua and Matiangis and all these people, okay? Alafu then the third league ni wakina Kalwale, Sifuna, Babu Owino and all these. Unaelewa? You see what I'm saying? I'm trying to paint a picture for you so you can get what I mean. So there's no way Raila can leave Ruto and join Gachagua and be like, they can work together. I mean, but it's not like Raila takuja seme haya, Gachagua, I'm joining your DCP, or I'm joining this United thing you have going on over here. If it's to happen, it will be Gachagua saying, mimi nimeamua kufanya kazi na umze. Not the other way around. But what Raila is most likely to do, because he understands the owner of the dog when it comes to siasa ya mlima, the big dog, the owner of the Ninio, the person who has influence, money, power, who can make things happen, is Uhuru Kenyatta. Ndio maana yeye ni mudhamaki. Si Gachagua hata Martha Karua walienda kumvotia za mudhamaki a few years ago. Was it last year or something like that? Limuru 3 or Limuru 4, whatever they're calling it. That's the real boss. Hata Gachagua akipiga makelele bado, it doesn't matter. Anaweza kupiga makelele vile anataka, but Uhuru Kenyatta is the real mudhamaki of Central Kenya, of the Neo Gema community as a whole, indirectly or directly. Ndio maana aongeangi sana. When things get out of order, ndio unaona anakuja naongea na bonga hapo anasema vitu. So if Raila atawacha nani Ruto, for the reasons I've explained to you, because he has to still position himself after post-election, ajiposition as the person who's bringing peace and is bringing things together, so tukue na amani. Just like when the Gen Zs were about to take out Ruto, Raila alikuja to come save the day, the savior from Opoda. You understand? That's how he gets his legitimacy. That's what he's trying to convince the Kenyan people to see. So atakosana na Ruto, which is a fake kukosana, then he joins Kenyatta. And once he joins Kenyatta, okay, I'm not saying the whole Mount Kenya will be supporting whoever Raila and Kenyatta chooses, whether it's Matiang'i or whoever. I'm not saying the whole Mount Kenya will buy into them, but a good chunk will be joining them, believing that they will get their revenge on taking out Ruto in 2027. And it will be a good number of them, Mount Kenya vote, that shall support the candidate that shall have the blessing of Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. Whether it's Raila Odinga himself running in 2027 or it's Matiang'i and a newfound coalition, whoever that is. Whoever Raila and Uhuru Kenyatta blesses to run against Ruto, a good chunk of the Mlima vote will vote for them. Of course, wakina Gachagua pia watakuwa napiga makelele and they'll be making their own noise there. And to be honest with you, I think Gachagua might lose influence if that happens, because if you look at who is anashikana now, Eugene Wamalwa is basically Uhuru Kenyatta's employee. Natembea is Uhuru Kenyatta's employee. Martha Karua, she just went and voted Uhuru Kenyatta's Mudamaki. Kalonzo Musyoka, do you really think Kalonzo atabaki na Gachagua against Ruto? Why do you think they call him watermelon? The last minute ataenda ashike, hey, my brother, hey, my brother. So everyone around Gachagua unaona hapo are basically Uhuru Kenyatta's minions. So if Uhuru wants to strip Gachagua of his influence, he can do it over at Evie. And it will be over. He can make it happen. And that's exactly what will happen. Once Raila shikane na Uhuru atapigia wakina Wamalwa simu ambie, hey, get it together. Kujeni hapa. Watawachana na DCP. Okay? Sawa wafuasi wa ninio. Gachagua still will have his own wafuasi. Don't get me wrong. He'll still, if he remains that way. Atakuwa na wafuasi. And maybe he might stick out with Jimmy Wanjigi and Martha Karua if she decides to stay with with Gachagua. Then it will be the revenge, remontada. Is it remontada? Is that what you say? Remontada? Of the dynasty against the so-called hustler who is Ruto. But Ruto shall win the presidency. Will be rigged in because IBC ndio hiyo imeshakuwa rigged. Alafu akishakuwa rigged, Raila will do what he does best. Ruto ameiba tena. Tudeni maandamano. And people will join him because at that point, a good chunk of Mount Kenya and Kenyans in general, since they're tired of Ruto and they've been screaming Ruto must go since the first day Ruto aliingia office. Now I scream one time, they'll be like, okay, twendeni maandamano. Because we have Ruto mpaka shindwe. He cannot stick to power mpaka tolewe. Tulisema one time, so let's realize this one time thing. And the move will be already hijacked by the so-called dynasty. And guess what will happen? Kelele hapa, alafu nini? Conclave. Tukae chini, let's sit down. Then they'll tell you, you know the problem in constitution. This one. Hii constitution ndio mbaya. That's why Raila was telling you in his view, at Kenya does best when the leaders of Kenya work together. Watasema hii constitution is not inclusive. Tukaeni chini tuongee hii mambo. There are some things we need to change. We need to have a prime minister. We need to have a vice prime minister. But before you know it, NADCO, national. Ndio wao wameingia what? Gachagua will be on the opposition with a few people who will be going leading up to 2032. Lakini constitution ndio hiyo mshapewa national government of national unity. Yeah. Ay. Nyinyi mnafikirianga ni mchezo, mnapangwa. That's why I usually tell you, you will never have real change unless a people-led revolution takes place in Kenya. It has to be people-led, not these politicians. Whether it's Jimmy Wanjigi, whether it's Raila Odinga, whether it's Ruto, whether it's Uhuru Kenyatta, whether it's Matiang'i, Gachagua, sijui nani, you are going nowhere. Hakuna pale mnaenda. Hakuna. It has to be people-led. And when they tell you that this cannot happen, waangalie tu Nepal. Nepal wakuna interim government as we speak, and it's there for 6 months. Na kuna security. Mambo imepoa after popular revolution. By the way, you need only 3% of the population. 3% of the population is enough to take out Ruto through popular revolution. Mimi nawaambia, nawapatia ninio. 3% of the population is enough to floor Ruto and the whole political class. 3%. Sio mingi. You don't have 3% of the population is enough to take out Ruto and this whole political class. Alafu tufungue makesi ya historical injustice. Haya. Twendeni kazi. Here's Aaron Cheriot, and I don't know what he was saying. I think he was alikuwa na zungumzia mambo ya Uhuru Kenyatta, whatever the case is. Twende.
Ndio hii sasa wapi meo yangu ni 200 kwa sababu nikitoka hapa naenda Dadaab. Kwa hivyo Dadaab pia ananingojea. Sasa acha niwape ya ماشان هبسوين مال بيجي قولن تابل هي لما بقول فارا معلم. شكرا بارك الله فيك.
Asante. Wapi makofi ya mzee wetu Fara Maalim? Asante sana. Hamjambo. Asante DJ. Mumetukaribisha hapa Swain. Sisi watu ya Bogol. Muko salama? Asante. Mimi pia nimekuja. Rafiki yangu Mheshimiwa Mohamed Ado amenisumbua wiki hii yote akiniambia upende usipende wiki hii mpaka twende tusaidie kina mama na vijana hapa kwetu nyumbani. So ndio tumefika hapa siku ya leo kusaidia vijana, kina mama, wazee, sababu nyinyi kama vile mheshimiwa wenu alisema, kama kuna constituency ilirushia kura kabisa Rais William Ruto ni hapa Wajir. Ni Wajir South ambaye muliweka kabisa kwa roho moja na mkasema rais wetu ni William Samoei Ruto. Na mnakumbuka wakati wa campaign tulikuwa tunasema bottom up, yani wale wako chini wainuliwe mpaka waweze kufika juu. Na hiyo ndio kazi ambayo imetuleta hapa siku ya leo. Kuangalia kina mama, wazee, vijana. Mbali na program za serikali zile zinaendelea na zinafanyika, tumekuja pia hapa kuwapatia support na kuhakikisha kwamba program hii ya empowerment inafika hapa kwenu pia. Isikuwe tu mnaangalia kwa television, inafanyika ati kule sijui wapi na wapi na ifiki hapa. Si mnajua rais wetu ametufundisha kwamba Kenya ni nchi moja. Hatutaki mambo ya program inafanywa pande ingine na pande ingine inawachwa. The President of the Republic yeye amesema mambo ya Wakenya wengine kubaguliwa, hiyo maneno sisi hatutaki tena. Tunataka taifa ambalo kila Mkenya anajihisi kwamba pahali popote yako, akue hapa Habaswein ama ako Kericho, ako Kiambu, awe Mombasa, anajihisi kwamba yeye ni mwana Kenya vile inatakikana. Kwa hivyo tumekubaliana program yoyote ya serikali ile inafanyika lazima ifanywe katika kila kona ya Kenya. Ile mambo ya zamani ya kubagua watu wengine na kufanya ni kama watu wengine sio wa Kenya, hiyo maneno tumewacha, si ndio? Si tuliahidiana kwamba tunataka Kenya sisi wote tunajivunia na tunasema sisi wote ni taifa moja. Na ndio maana ukiangalia program za serikali, naibu wa rais wetu yuko hapa na anakuja kutuzungumzia program za serikali zile zinafanyika katika Wajir County na Northern Kenya kwa jumla, kwa sababu kwa miaka mingi Northern Kenya iliwachwa nyuma kwa sababu ya siasa duni na watu wengine ambao walikuwa wanaona ni kama wananchi wale wako hapa Northern Kenya hawafai kushughulikiwa. Mimi nashukuru na ninafurahi kwa sababu najua rais wetu amesema iwe ni program ya affordable housing, iwe ni ya SHA, iwe ni program gani, lazima wananchi wa hapa pia wafurahie kama Mkenya yoyote. Ndio hata siku ingine ikiwezekana mimi naweza toka kwetu Kericho nikuje ninunue shamba hapa Habaswein, nimgue mkaaji na nijihisi kama niko taifa la Kenya. Na wewe pia unaweza toka Habaswein uelekee kwetu Kericho ufanye biashara na ufurahie bila kubaguliwa. Si hiyo ndio Kenya tunataka? So tuendelee kushikiliana na kutembea pamoja. Mimi nawahakikishia kwamba hakuna wakati tena katika historia ya Kenya Wakenya wa hapa Northern Kenya watabaguliwa kama tuko katika uongozini. Tunataka taifa moja, na ndio maana unaona, imagine ukitaka kujua hii watu kweli wako na madharau, rais alipokuja hapa hivi majuzi alitangaza kuondolewa kwa ile maneno ya kipande. Ati watu wanapiga kelele. Yaani kipande ni kitu ya kunyima mtu. Karatasi peke yake ni kitu ya kuambia mtu ati wewe sijui baba yako ni nani, nyanya yako ni nini. Hiyo maneno ya upuzi hatutaki katika taifa letu la Kenya. Si ni kweli?
All right. That's Aaron Choriot basically defending his boss and his tribesmen, William Samoei Ruto, after Uhuru said what he said about dynasty and single mothers and whatever the case is. But something also interesting I want to play here very quickly. There was a short clip of Richard Quest of the CNN that when he was interviewing Ruto about, you know, how unpopular Ruto is and questioning him on the mambo ya Haiti. Let's listen in a little bit here to ski mambo alikuwa naenda jela for, then I'll come back with my take on this.
And it's the only place in our corner where people demonstrate, people express themselves freely, and everything in between. And but the last 24 months, slightly more over the 2 years, we have had a journey as a nation. We have reformed our education system. We have transformed our agricultural system, transformed our health system. We've brought in more interventions that were there for a very long time, housing and everything in between, and very heavy lifting the last couple of 24 months.
The criticisms have been very harsh on you as you've been doing this, and indeed some of the criticisms in terms of the questioning of rights, of freedom of speech. Look, you know, I'm always hesitant when I speak to a president to tell you about your own country.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, the criticisms say that it is authoritarian and that it is anti-investment. That the nature, the effect of all this is it creates an anti-investment environment.
That cannot be further from the truth. If you look at the numbers don't lie, my friend. Our inflation has come down from 9.6 to 4 to an average of 4. Our dollar reserves have gone up, doubled actually, from $5.7 billion to $11.8 billion. Our exchange rate has come down from 167 to the dollar to 129. That tells you the fundamentals are strong. IMF just released a report that says Kenya has now moved from position 9 to position 8 as the largest economy in Africa. And Standard & Poor's has just given a report that Kenya is much more creditworthy than it was 2 years ago. That
so
tells
why are
you
people protesting?
that's the essence of a democracy. Don't you see a demonstration around here? There are demonstrations all over. This is the essence of democracy. Democracy is that some people agree with you, some don't agree with you. Those who don't agree with you demonstrate. Those who don't agree with you, they do whatever it is that. But what leadership must do is to focus, keep the eye on the ball.
I was reading up on you. It must have been quite painful when you're described as the worst president. You saw that
There is all manner of stories all over as to.
How'd you take that?
I also saw one saying that Nairobi is the capital of Africa. So there is all manner of things in the social media. But you see, as a leader, you must keep the focus.
How hard is that?
It's quite difficult because there's so much noise sometimes, there's so much action sometimes, and it is easy to be dissuaded or it is easy to be misled. But for the last 3 years, I have kept my focus, and believe you me, it's turning around. People are beginning to say, let's listen. Maybe William Ruto has something to say. In fact, because the reality is changing. The numbers are speaking for themselves. The transformation is real.
Do you regret getting involved and offering to lead the multinational force in Haiti? Bearing in mind, when you're complaining about old cars, second-hand cars, and that comment, I'm not sure whether you realized it was going to sort of take off as it did, but you regret leading that?
I will never regret, because in the first place, Kenya came into Haiti out of solidarity, because that is the essence of the United Nations.
It's the other side of the world.
That is the belief we have as a nation, that we have been across the world many times. This is not the first time we are going across the world for peace efforts. We've done this in Kosovo. We've done it in many other places. So that is the DNA of Kenya, to be present when others need us.
Have you been assured you'll get new cars?
There is a transition, which I spoke to this afternoon. There is already an understanding that, yes, Haiti is doable, it is solvable. We just need to get the right logistics, the right support, financial support, the right equipment, the right mandate. And I think our recommendations that now go to the new mission have been taken on board, because we are the people on the theater. We are the people in the theater, and we have clarity on what is needed for this to succeed.
Wow. All right. Now
we'll hear another.
Listen, I'll give Ruto one thing though. Like he had a good comeback when Richard Quest asked him, "Hey, why are people protesting against you?" And he was like, "You can see people protesting outside, and it is the essence of democracy." That was a nice one. It was a quick comeback. But still, it doesn't take away from the fact that Ruto is actually very unpopular in Kenya. The right, we do not have it and don't have no, and we'll get it. Okay. All right. So anyway, Ruto is an interesting character. He stuck to his guns, as he should. When asked about Haiti, whatever you want to call it. And basically, for those of you who know the story, first of all, the deployment of the army or the police force or whatever the forces that were sent in Haiti was actually illegal. But Richard Quest will not know this because he's a CNN guy. I don't think he's invested in the day-to-day inner politics of Kenya. So I don't think he knew anything about that. So that's number one. The forces there, whether it's the army, military forces, or police forces that were sent to Haiti, were sent illegally, and the court said so, okay? Number two, this was a Joe Biden promise, and Joe Biden is no longer in office. So Ruto, being one that actually acquiesced to that request by the Biden administration, find himself in a pickle because now he has no help from anybody, or US or UN for that matter, to help Kenyan forces who are there, whether it's through equipment, money, or whatever the case is. Okay, so he's stuck. So the only thing he has to do, the reasonable thing, if I was him, I don't know if he's going to do it or not, is to withdraw and return our forces back to Kenya. I just saw a video of one of the bodies that was sent back home in Kenya, and the family were waiting for the remains of the body, which was a sad thing to see. Family waiting for a body of a loved one coming from overseas in a war that, well, not a war, but a conflict that we really did not need to be there. It was illegal. If anything, if I was the member of that family, I would actually sue, sue on that matter, okay? Because if you send my loved one, the military or wherever the case is, illegally send him to a foreign country to fight a conflict that has been, we have nothing to do with it, that's grounds for to sue the president as the chief of armed forces. But that's the story of another day. So the war is illegal. Now he has no support from any Western or UN or whatever the case is. And I don't know where his stand is. I don't know if we still have people in Haiti. I think he should quickly return the forces back. So Ruto, in all fronts, he's left hanging, okay, has proven to be a globalist stooge. That's why yesterday I was telling you guys that Kenya will most likely have digital IDs and central bank digital currencies coming soon. Both these issues are a globalist agenda, in the globalist agenda. And like I mentioned, Kenya being the biggest testing ground for any globalist agenda, we shall be told by the colonial clowns that actually preside over the state that it's good for you, it's good for your economy, it will bring employment, just like Raila made in his 50-second video telling us about the advantages of the not crypto, but the digital currency that are yet to be unveiled soon, okay? So you see, that's an example of it. Yes, it's being wrapped up at the Genius Act in the US. Oh, okay. So that's a clear example of what I was telling you, that with somebody like Ruto, expect anything to go. The GMOs, the shindanos that we give our young ones, and everybody else will be told to give, and I won't be surprised if by mid-2026 we'll be like China. You will not be able to buy or sell without having your digital ID in good standing with the state. Okay? Because these things are coming. And we just saw how Ruto is answering those questions. Basically, being deluded by the fact that a lot of people, majority of Kenyans, do not like him, want him out. And the unfortunate part is that the so-called opposition are part of this handpicked by the globalists. Now, there's something I also wanted to mention here. I was just thinking about this. I mentioned that it only requires 3% of the population to actually bring a popular revolution. Now, when I talk about revolution, I know most people think about arms, blood, people fighting, and conflicts happening. No. We can have a peaceful revolution. Okay? Now, if you think of it carefully, the reason why the so-called Gen Z movement has been thwarted, or at least pacified for now, is because this administration, or the political class therein, they understand that the young folks who are agitating for change, a revolution, are the ones that they're going to target. They're either going to buy them off or kill them. And they've done both. Because remember, majority of the Kenyan population still are falling for the regular politics that we conduct. The Gachagua, the Raila, the Ruto, the Jimmy Wanjigi, the political arithmetic that we always do come election time. And we are constantly reminded that the only way to bring change is through the ballot. That's why I told you guys in my previous videos that of all of these political parties, everyone that's coming out and trying to convince us that they're the best candidate to run in 2027, they're all talking about going through the ballot to vote out or to vote for the change that we want. And none of them has raised the possibility of the people actually representing themselves directly through a peaceful popular revolution. Okay? Because that's also whatever, an option. Politics needs opposing parties to argue in public and conspire in the back rooms. Yes, that's exactly what's happening in Kenya. In public, wanaongea wanasema, hey, Raila is the real call man and this is the sijui nini. Hey, Gachagua ni mtu wa ukabila. At night wanakunywa pombe pamoja, wanapanga vile watatupanga. You understand? So that's what's happening. That's why I'm saying you only need 3%. 3% of the population. How many people do we have in Kenya? What's the population in Kenya? Last time I checked, I think we had 50 million. 3% of that is what? You do the math. Ndio maana nilikuwa nawaambia the Gen Z movement, if they were able to take State House and the the parliament, that is enough to actually kutoa Ruto. That is enough. You don't need the whole country. Nepal, same thing happened. 3% of the saizi wako na interim government. Wali choose, and the politicians were behaving the same way our politicians are behaving. And they couldn't stand for it. So you think about this. And these political class, let me tell you who they are. 1.5 mil. Okay, we just need 1.5 mil. Actually, hata hiyo ni mingi. Mimi naambia hata 500,000 is enough. In fact, I think even 250,000 is enough. A quarter mil. You understand? But the problem is, what will most likely happen? Sisi tutangoja mpaka 2027 ifike and tuone ile mchezo wa town ambayo itafanyika 2027, and at that point ndio sasa tutasema okay, now it is apparent that watu wanatucheza, so let's go and in fact it won't even be that. 2027 itakuwa ni ukabila. Tutasema wale wa Kalenjin wameiba kura. Wakikuyu ndio wanapiga makelele. Wale wajaluo wameshikana na wale wakamba ndio. Then we shall fight, have a tribal warfare or conflict, whatever, violence against each other. Instead of rallying around the fact that we understand, listen, it's not a myth at this point. We have a very good understanding that the political class, the people who hold public office in Kenya, starting from the executive branch of the government, the legislative part of our government, and even the judiciary, are not acting in the interest of the wananchi. If anything, they are subverting the constitution, the very document that we all agreed that we shall govern ourselves by, the social contract. We understand that. Lakini ni kama tunashindana ku report about how bad our country is. No. So what will happen after this? What will happen? Unaona how the same political class ndio hao wote wanasema wana run for president in 2027. Now awambi, none of them is telling you ati tuendeni ile njia ya Nepal where the people are representing themselves directly. They are all busy telling you tuendeni through the ballot. Listen to them. That's the theme that Diolukona Ambia last week. That's the theme that I keep on hearing from all of them. I was waiting to hear any political candidate ambata sema something different. None of them say something different. Of course, wanakuja na hizi stories artists, we shall make sheriffs wakuwaitwe from OCPD to sheriffs, our debt, na corruption, the same nonsense. Hizi mapromise kubwa kubwa ambao does not mean anything. But they are all telling us that 2027, go through the ballot. None of them even mentioned the fact that the law, IEBC Amendment Act, was passed illegally. Not only that the IEBC is compromised. Okiya Omtata is not mentioning that. The only person I had say something was Paul Mwite when he was giving a speech at Safina party, whatever. Lakini hata yeye alisema hivyo, lakini akasema twendeni tutalinda kura. He's the only one who said that. I was listening to all of them so I can hear something about the process. And this is the question that we need to pose to these people when they come out at wanataka kuzungumza na watu. Ask them, what is the sense of going to an electoral process in your elections that is going to be presided over an organization that has been compromised, handpicked by Raila Odinga and Ruto. And we are still going to act surprised if tukiona Ruto ameshinda. We know in wanaenda kuiba na tunaenda alafu tunaenda kulinda kura. I mean, nikawa unaenda kichinjio lakini unasema we ngoja, mimi nataka kuona tutalinda hiyo ninio, tuta make sure hiyo panga haitatukata kwa kichwa. Na umejua unaenda kupigwa na panga. Now you don't have anything to protect yourself. Wewe unaenda tu upigwe panga. That's what I mean. But anyway, it's been an hour, ladies and gentlemen. I won't stay here for long because it's Sunday fun day and kesho ni watu wanarudi kazini and all that stuff. So I'll stay here. Thank you very much, WS Bank. I haven't seen you. Promise Baraka. Also, I thank you so much for stopping by. DJ Modapi and Elkuana. Nice seeing you. It's been a long time. I'll leave it here, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you subscribe, share, like, comment, do all the good stuff. And I will see you guys next time. Mama namna gani? All right. Tutaonana baadaye. Tuonane. Peace and blessings.